Hey everybody, before I get started, I just want to mention a couple of ways that you can engage with me on a more personal level. I have a few avenues set up and I keep focusing on one, and I figured why don't I make a short little video talking about all of them real quick before we get into these episodes. So first thing, Patreon. There's a link in the episode description and every episode description to the Patreon, as well as a video on the feed called Major Announcement that has all the details of what each tier offers and how much they cost. I implore you to check that out. I offer a lot of cool shit for my patrons. Second thing, the Discord channel. There's also a Discord link in the episode description and in every episode description. I have multiple channels set up there for each show that I'm covering, and it's a great way to just engage with me. I have a channel set up for MMA talk as well. I'm a big MMA fan, so if you're an MMA fan, you can check that out as well. There's a link to the Discord in the episode description. And then lastly, the Facebook and Twitter. Social media. Follow me on there. I post news on there. When I say news, I mean like, hey, I'm stopping covering this show. Hey, I'm starting covering this show. Let me know what you think about this. I do live watches of things on Facebook where like I'll check in and say I'm watching so-and-so show, and then I'll like live comment while I'm watching it, and that'll be cool if maybe you watch that show too and you want to watch along with me, or you're watching it later and you will see my thoughts, which are usually pretty entertaining because I'm usually pretty high when I'm writing them. So check out all those links in each episode description, and let's talk about this episode. Peace.
One mic, one mic. Yeah. All I need is one mic. One mic. Yeah. All I need is one mic. One mic. One mic.
Hey everybody, welcome back to One Mic, where I watch shit so you don't have to. And today I'm here to talk about Season 1, Episode 7 of FX and Hulu's Kindred, entitled Jane. This episode title refers to a young woman who we meet in this episode named Jane. She is unfortunately in a pretty horrific scene. Tom takes Kevin to see a quote-unquote show, and it ends up being what I can only describe as like, I don't like a rape fight. I don't even really know what else to call it, but these slave owners are in a circle, and it looks like the objective of this, I don't even want to call it a game, but whatever this is to see how long this slave woman can fight off this slave man before he rapes her. And it's they don't show it, but I do want to talk about this scene a little briefly. I do want to talk about this scene briefly up top, because this scene did something well that I think a lot of shows and films don't do all that great when it comes to portraying the harsh realities of slavery. A lot of times when I'm watching these things, it feels like brutality for brutality's sake. Like, we want to show the viewer just how bad things were at this, in this location at this time for the purposes of this film. And I think there's also a little bit of like, can we top the brutality that has been shown in whatever other previous thing might have had a really harsh scene. And when I see these brutal scenes, these rape scenes, these beating scenes, in a lot of these films and these television shows, it feels needlessly gratuitous. Like I said, it feels like they're trying to top the last gratuitous thing that might have happened. And it doesn't really serve a purpose other than just showing you like, okay, this is the world that they live in, but we already seen that 8 million times in various other things. It doesn't need to be like, how can we push the envelope further and further and further? And what I liked about this scene is that this wasn't, well, for one, they don't even show it. And I mean, really, you don't need to see it. They make it clear what's about to happen. They don't show it. But what I liked about this scene is that it informed on our characters. And that's not something you get too often when it comes to these scenes that exist in these slavery shows or films that showcase the brutality. You don't really get that. But it informs on Kevin because we see like, okay, and like, of course, it's not surprising that Kevin wasn't able to stomach that. I get it. But it does inform on Kevin because we don't know how Kevin might have reacted to that. If Kevin stands there for a while straight-faced, we can have one interpretation of his actions. If he runs off right away, we can have another. If he takes a bet or makes a bet, we can have another. So like, this just informed on what kind of person Kevin is, which, I mean, we had a pretty strong idea, but that kind of cemented it. And then it also informs on Tom because we can see just how cunning he is, because that was very much a move on Tom's part. He wanted to see how Kevin was going to react to that. So now we were informed on Kevin, but so was Tom. And that lets us know that even though we might look at, I think, in 2022, we tend to look at people like Tom, as just being lesser than. Like, there's no way these people have the human capacity to even like understand how shitty they are. And, you know, we think very low of these sorts of people. But this shows that even though Tom is very much a piece of shit and Tom is very dumb, which I'm going to talk about a little bit later, he does have a bit of cunning in him, at least when it comes to being a piece of shit. He's really good at being a piece of shit. But talking about the episode, as far as the episode goes, it wasn't bad. You know, Dana is now my primary irritation about this show, this character, and how she's written, the dialogue she's given, her actions, a lot of the things that they give Dana to do. This is my primary irritation, but when the show cuts back on showing us Dana being dumb, it's a lot easier to watch. So I'm going to talk about this episode, and I'm not going to be doing too much of a, you know, this is now it's time for this section. I will say up front, why Dana got me fucked up does appear in this video, but it's not crazy like it was in the video for episode 6. But moving on, talking about this episode, I love how this episode opened with Sarah saying all the same shit that I said in the last video about how Dana came and just started fucking everything up, how she's gonna get Nigel killed, teaching him how to read. And I'm like, Sarah understands me. Like, Sarah is my spirit animal. She very much is like, she sees everything for what it is, and she's not afraid to speak on it or point it out. And I appreciate that. She's, you know, no matter how unbecoming it might be of Sarah to say some of the things that she says, she just speaks her truth, man, and I feel that. Dana is fucking everything up. So I appreciate her pointing that out. So in this episode, we get 2 plot lines that kind of move parallel to one another until they converge at the end of the episode. And one of those plot lines features Kevin, Tom, Rufus, Luke, going on kind of like a boys trip. You know, Kevin has to get on a horse, which he does awkwardly, but then he ends up like immediately riding it fine. I feel like I've never ridden a horse. I feel like I'd get on a horse and like whip the reins too hard, it would take off. But he just like trots away. I'm like, well, you were scared for nothing apparently. But the other plot line follows Dana's adventures being left at the house without Tom, which allows Margaret to make her life a living hell. And Margaret, well, not Margaret and her sister, only Margaret makes her life a living hell, but we do meet Margaret's sister in this episode. But I'm going to talk about Kevin's plot line first, and then I'm going to move to Dana's, because, you know, that's where we're really going to get busy. So I already talked about the rape scene and what I think about the brutality of it and how well I think they did with how they handled the usefulness of that scene and how it was informative. But another thing I thought this episode did pretty well was also within Kevin's plotline. I like the fact that this boys' trip even happened in the first place. The reason I say that is, you know, while Tom has been a piece of shit from day one, he did say that he would consider Kevin's recommendation to spend more time with Rufus. And this trip shows that Tom is making an effort to do that. Like, even though, like, through all of the ways in which Tom's a piece of shit, the man said he was gonna think about spending more time with his kid, and he fucking did it, man. So, like, you know, I was wondering about that because, you know, even though he had to present it as, like, what am I gonna do? Leave him here with the women to gossip? Like, he still had to, like, slide a little misogyny in. It does show that the writers remembered that Tom promised to do that and had to follow through on it. And because I remember thinking when I heard it, like, is he gonna do that or are they just gonna forget about it? And so they didn't forget about it, and I appreciate that. Let's see, what else? Well, kind of like an extra kind of note to that. I'm glad I said, are they really gonna do that? And then that, obviously they did. My concern with that was, I'm glad they didn't just leave it dangling, because when you have like a character who's like evil like Tom, right, and they've committed to doing something good, I need to know if they're actually gonna do that. Because again, what have I been saying? It informs on the character. Is he evil enough to promise to spend time with his kid and then not do it? Like, that's pretty evil. Or is he a bit more complex than that and a little bit more willing to change? And I don't even care which one it is, but I like knowing, as opposed to just like, okay, I guess he wasn't gonna put the effort. I don't know. But on the way back to the plantation, Kevin and Tom have an argument about after Tom essentially forces Kevin, who we've already established has a drinking problem or had a drinking problem, to drink. And Tom tells, on this walk back to the plantation, Tom tells Kevin that he thinks his relationship with Dana is unnatural. He's like, I think you love him. I think you love her, and then, you know, that you can do that, but not right to fall in love with him. And Kevin more or less is like, you're one to talk, buddy. Like, I see how you be fucking all these black women around here. I see how you felt about Winnie. Don't even pull that shit. Of course, Tom takes this personally and he ends their relationship by charging him $10 for everything that he's done for him. Why didn't they put a wallet in their little supply bag? Put a wallet in it, like hit the ATM, take out like $200 and then just go there and buy everything. But it'd have been a very short story had they thought to do that. But he charges him $10 for everything that he's been doing for him. He takes the horse back and he tells Kevin that if he comes on his property again, he's going to shoot him. So when Tom returns, everyone has a lot of news that they need to exchange, which they do. And I'll go over that after we discuss how Dana has me fucked up. So let's talk about Dana real quick. So like I said, Dana's left on the plantation with Margaret to kind of fend for herself while the men go on this boys' trip. When Kevin informs Dana of the trip, he says something to the effect of like, he presents it as kind of like, oh, it'd be fun to get off the plantation or something to that effect. And I think he said like, no, I think he did. I think he did say it would be fun to get off the plantation. And Dana replies by saying, sounds fun if you're white. He's only here because of you, Dana. Like, what? Like, he's been trying to go home. Every time y'all pop up, what do you say? Maybe we should go home. Maybe we should go home. He ain't even want to come back, and you literally dragged him back to the plantation. And he can't even go, well, at least I get to leave the plantation without you laying a guilt trip on him about it. Like, come on, man. Like, he don't even want to be here. This is entirely on you. He's here because of you. And then, like, he's just like, man, at least I get to get off the plantation. Sounds fun if you white. Like, if you don't like it, we can go home. Like, I've been asking to go home every time. We can go home, Dana. Like, that. So, Margaret's sister, May, comes to visit, and she immediately sets to work trying to convince Margaret to leave Tom, as Kevin did as well. And Margaret, in the meantime, immediately sets to work making Dana's life a living hell while Tom is gone. And you know, I gotta say, I ain't mad about it. Let me just run off the list here. I'm gonna read it. 1, Dana put Winnie in harm's way, convincing her to escape, and she is the reason that the slaves were starved. She's the reason Celeste died. She's the reason Celeste's baby died. And she's partially responsible for Luke getting sold. Now, Luke obviously played his own part in this when he mouths off the time in this episode, but she played her part by putting Luke in a very shitty position, which ultimately ended up how it ended up. So she got a little spit tea thrown in her face. You know, I mean, like, Winnie at risk, all the slaves having to starve, Celeste dying, the baby dying, Luke getting sold. And all she has to do to pay for that is a little spit tea in her face. I'm not saying it was the right thing for Margaret to do, but I understand. So, Dana's entitled behavior continues after Margaret asked her to bring her and May some tea. Dana goes into the cookhouse and says something like, they want tea, as if she expects Sarah to make it. Like, Dana was a slave for all of 20 minutes, didn't do shit, and complained about it. And then by the time she actually brings the tea to Margaret and May, it's cold. The water was already hot, Dana. How did it get to them cold? It's hot water and tea leaves. Like, it's not hard. And the water, you ain't even have to heat up the water. We know the water was already hot because she tried to touch the pot and burned her hand. The water was already hot. How did it, like, you don't know how to make tea, Dana? Tea? What an incompetent slave. Like, can't even, like, the most basic of requests. Hey, Dana, go get us some tea. And you can't even do that. Like, I won't go so far as say she deserved to have the spit tea thrown in her face, but I understand. So after dragging Tom for all he's worth, combined with Rufus coming back drunk, May seems to have finally convinced Margaret to leave Tom, and her and Rufus bail in the middle of the night. Dana sees them, tries to stop, and she mentions, in order to stop them, that she's the person who has come back in the past to save Rufus. Like, it was her that came back and saved him when he was fire. It was her that came back and saved him when he broke his leg. Like, all this kind of shit, right? And Margaret goes, oh, so you the devil. Like, that's what she takes from it. And, like, correct me if I'm wrong, but I thought, didn't Margaret already put that out there? Maybe I'm tripping and I made it up in my head, but I thought Margaret already knew, because she was saying Olivia brought the devil in or whatever. I thought she was referring to Dana that whole time. And, like, if she wasn't, I feel like they were muddy with that. Like, so I don't know. I could be tripping, though. Like, I could be, maybe I just misinterpreted something, but I thought Margaret already knew, well, not already knew that Dana could travel through time, but I mean, I thought she already knew that Dana was the person that she thought was the devil. Again, I could be wrong. But anyway, this is where our various plot lines converge. Tom returns, and Dana tells him that Margaret left with Rufus and inquires about Kevin, and Tom sends Jake after Margaret and Rufus, instructing him, really just Rufus is the priority. Do it, whatever you got to do with Margaret, whatever. But Rufus is the priority. And then he catches Dana eavesdropping, because only Dana is stupid enough to eavesdrop on two slave masters and get caught. Only Dana. He allows her in the room, and he makes this offer, like it's like, I got an offer you can't refuse. Be my slave. How enticing. But she says she wants to stay with Kevin, and Tom's like, Kevin ain't gonna be no more Kevin. Don't worry about Kevin. I'm what you got. And he calls her a quote-unquote loyal breed in this scene, and I don't know why, but that terminology really fuck with me for some reason. Like, I know, like, historically, the white people always looked at the black people as less than human, and referred them to all, compared them to all manner of animals. But for some reason, loyal breed, like, just to call a human or a type of human a breed, I don't know why, that just felt extra hardcore to me. Like, that phrase really fucked with me. So Kevin arrives at Olivia's house, and of course he also inquires about Dana, and Olivia says her and Alice are going to Philly, like, right away after she retrieves Dana, and she leaves to head over to Tom's plantation. The episode ends with Kevin discovering Winnie in the hiding spot that Winnie's been in, and even though Alice tells him not to let her out, he lets her out, and she escapes. And I like this scene. I don't like this scene, but I like reflecting on this scene, because I'm taking my notes in my phone, and Kevin hears whatever it is that's Winnie. He opens it up. I think Alice told him not to open it too, but he opens it up, and she's like, and Alice is like, don't let her out. And she's like, can I stretch my legs? I'm writing in my notes. I wrote, Kevin discovers, Winnie's hiding place. Alice says, don't let her out. He lets her out. She escapes. And I put she escapes way before it actually happened. Because, I mean, was there anything more obvious than Winnie was about to run? Like, so, like, I don't know. That was just super predictable. And I like the fact that I put it in my notes what was going to happen. As soon as she said, don't let her out, I'm like, oh, she about to run. And then also, Dana is visited by Sarah, who informs her that Luke has been sold. Kevin ain't coming back, and you now belong to Tom Whalen. So, pretty rough ending for Dana, but I want to close this up with a couple of thoughts. I like this. Why did Tom fry Kevin like that? I find your nature to be quite feminine. That shit really took me out, man. And he's like, that's probably why Broadus liked you so much. And he's like, I jest. I never heard 1800s capping, but like that was some funny shit, man. I find your nature to be quite feminine. I'm gonna start, just like I said, I'm gonna start calling my wife Negress. Side note, I haven't done it like verbally, but I put in a text message, like, we got a lot of packages from Amazon today, as I'm sure a lot of you did. It's December 21st. I'm sure a lot of you got packages from Amazon today. I had like 4, and I wasn't home, and I said, hey, my packages outside, pick them up, and I was like, don't open them, Negress, and she didn't even fucking reply to that part. But I'm like I said, I'm gonna start calling people Negress. I feel like I need to slide into my lexicon. I find your nature to be quite feminine. I feel like I need to do that. So I love that scene. Oh, and same scene. I don't know why, but when Kevin and Ruth, what Kevin said to Tom that Rufus should stay in school longer. Tom's like, a man only needs to know his Psalms. Like, man, I don't know what it is about the way it's worded that's funny to me, but I find the sentence itself, like the words within it, to be funnier than the idea of Tom believing that he only needs to know addition to be okay in life. Like, that's funny, but for some reason, it's not as funny as a man only needs to know his Psalms. Like, I don't know. I don't know why that was so funny to me, but it was. I feel like I should put that in my lexicon as well. And then lastly, Dana says she's been pregnant before. What's that about? Like, do you, like, okay, so I believe her, but like, what is that? How's that gonna play into whatever's gonna happen in the future? I'm really curious, and I wonder if that's gonna be explored. I hope it is, but let's just hope Dana ain't having. Let's hope she wasn't pregnant with a daughter. What if the daughter disappeared? Like, she was pregnant and like the babe, like pregnant and like the fetus disappeared. I'm on some other shit right now. So I'm gonna wrap this one up. I will be back later today with my review of the finale, episode 8. I will see you guys then, and until then, peace.